Jimmy, Floyd's death is seen as a possible turning point in the country's complicated racial biography.
And many have viewed the jury's decision there as long overdue accountability. But as Mark Namick reports, there are plenty of signs tension is still rising in America and that the nation is far from achieving racial healing.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
The death of George Floyd challenged Americans, institutions, and governments to re-examine their views on racial justice. Big companies such as McDonald's, General Motors, and Amazon pledged millions to support racial equality causes. The NFL apologized for not listening to players' concerns over such issues. Statues, flags, and mascots with ties to the nation's racist past finally removed or banished. Polls show Americans have a more tolerant view towards racial activism since Floyd's death. And a majority of Americans now say they support more scrutiny of police discrimination, according to a recent Washington Post ABC poll. Also, since the demonstrations in the wake of Floyd's death, some big police departments have banned neck restraints or re-examined their use of force policies. But Floyd's death and last month's guilty verdict against former police officer Derek Chauvin is not the turning point that some had hoped. 73-year-old Andrew Purnell of Pepper Pike grew up in Alabama in the 60s and was one of the first black students to walk on to the University of Alabama football team. His experiences, chronicled in a new memoir, temper his reaction to the verdict. He's encouraged that many Americans demonstrated against Floyd's death.
And I was so hardened by the multiracial multitude that came out in protest and took to the streets. A lot of young white people and older white people, and they heard our clarion call that we have been crying out for so long that this is happening.
But he's pessimistic that real change is upon us.
I don't know, and I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime.
A racial wedge now deeper in some aspects of American life, most evident in politics. Nearly half of all Republicans questioned in a recent CBS News YouGov poll said they believe Chauvin was wrongly convicted. Just 10% of Democrats held the same view. Beyond Floyd's death and the verdict, signs of ongoing and widening racial inequality. The pandemic uncovered again the economic, health, and education disparities that exist between white and black Americans. And voting bills pushed by Republican lawmakers since the presidential election now popping up across the country. Their practical effect viewed widely as restricting voting opportunities among people of color. Before Floyd's death and the pandemic, hate crimes were on the rise, 2019 Justice Department figures show. The pandemic driving spikes in hate crimes toward Asians, according to groups tracking harassment and violence against minorities. White supremacist violence also on the rise. So where does this leave us? The landmark case brightened the spotlight on racial injustice and on our divisions. But it and other troubling signs remind us we have a long way to go to achieve racial healing. I'm Mark Namick, 3 News.